Hi all. Everything in my video is pulled from the public domain, and I am using them under the Fair Use, Fair Dealings guidelines. Everything I say is my own opinion. You should look into this information for yourselves, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Good morning, everybody. The backlash continues, and now we have the second Spotify that's come out with Mariah Carey. So we're going to cover all that in today's video. So let's just jump in and go. Bye. We're going to start off today with the two trees that were seen on Harry and Meghan's property that made them want to buy that property. Yep, here it is. My follower Helen said that the two palm trees entwined together at the base, that's like your videos and me. Love it. And Jakey5 pointed out, it is a little weird that they have these sons saying, "Good morning, Mama and Papa," when he passes the trees. So he's calling the two trees Mom and Dad. Okay, I agree with you, Jakey. I'm really concerned about the mental well-being of those kids. My goodness. All right, this next photo was taken by one of my followers, Kyle. It was taken in Hampton, Virginia in 2020 during a thunderstorm. Absolutely gorgeous. Isn't nature just amazing? All right, another picture that I found on Twitter from Dave Z Photography. This was taken at York in the morning. Storybook, man, I love it. All right, looking at a few more comments you guys put up, Cindy here wrote that after seeing her continuously being published in magazines, on podcasts, on billboards, it just goes to show you what money can buy and the lengths people will go through to accept that money. I couldn't agree with you more. Babe V100 pointed out, if the police told her not to mention the fire and she didn't want to offend anybody, why talk about it now? Good point, because she's looking for sympathy. All right, let's move on to some of our stories before we get to the big story for today. All right, to start off with this article, Meghan gave the biggest hint she'll never move back to the UK with Harry. I showed you this in the video the other day. She said she went back up to Frogmore. She slipped in to pack up the rest of their belongings. We already know that she's not going back there. All right, moving on. All right, next up, this article came up asking why Prince Harry wants to know why he was stripped of his taxpayer-funded security, but Prince Andrew still gets his police protection. Now, almost as soon as the article went up, it was ripped down. Well, it might have something to do with this. This clause came out in the legal documents talking about confidentiality and that these protective security arrangements applicable to persons other than the claimant is considered by RAVIC and is supposed to be confidential. It says that the judgment that was handed down on March 25th explained the extent to which it's necessary to redact the parties' pleaded case to protect the confidentiality of details, talking about personal protective arrangements, not only for Harry, but for other people. Therefore, the article was pulled. Yeah. All right, let's move on. All right, now the stories are coming back that Harry and Meghan have no way back after they burned their bridges with Charles. So here is the biggest problem. They need Charles. Charles is going to become king. The statements that Meghan made have been damaging and distressing to Charles. He has offered them in the past the ability to come stay at their house if they're worried about security. And her comment may have been the final blow that that's the end of their relationship, if there was any chance of reconciliation. But this is where the problem lies, because they need Charles. Charles can become king and can remove the children from the line of succession. Charles can remove their Duke and Duchess titles. Charles can do a lot of damage to them. And that's why they're starting to backpedal. So it's at this time now that the stories are coming out that Meghan is hopeful for a reunion between Charles and Harry. Yeah, I don't think so. After what she said in that interview, I don't get it. You know, when she said, Harry said to me, I lost my dad in the process, but it doesn't have to be that way, but that's Harry's choice. Now she's saying that what she meant was Harry pointed out that her relationship with Thomas had broken down. That's not what she said. That's not what she said at all. So now she's pushing for a reunion because, as I said before, they need Charles. And when she opened her mouth and made that comment, that might have been the final nail in the coffin for them. So we know about Teresa Longo, and she's usually spot on when she makes comments. And according to her, there were crisis meetings at the palace, which I absolutely believe. Are they going to sue them? No. Are they going to try to give her a cease and desist? No. I think Harry and Meghan will be made aware that they're just about ready to be taken off the royal website and the titles will be removed because she's gone too far. That's just the way it is. And I think they realize it. And that's why all this PR now is coming out about Harry and his father should get back together. Yeah, right. And I have to say, I agree with follower ECS21. When a writer puts together an article like this, and we know how controlling she is, absolutely she read it over. Absolutely it was proofread, and she had no issue with it. And now they want you to believe, because of the backlash, that there was a misstatement. I completely agree with you. And when it comes to her having a voice, Living the Life pointed out, very aptly I might add, that for somebody who's constantly claiming that she was trying to be silenced and she's accusing them of silencing her, she is talking. And she's half the time what's coming out of her mouth is a lie, but she never signed anything that restricts her from talking, and yet she has all of her staff with NDAs. Good spot on comment. I mean, while she's talking about what she could say, she could talk about the staff that accused her of bullying. I mean, really, she could just keep going on and on. You know, I have to show you this article that was found by one of my followers who wants to remain anonymous. This is from CNN, and this is when she was pregnant with George. And they called her, they started talking about the genetics and will the baby have Prince Charles's ears and what the child's hair color will be and will he stand out genetically because she is, after all, just a commoner. And notice it says, it's a very good thing they're bringing in new genes. It freshens up the gene pool. What does that sound like? How about Catherine's commoner genes might lead to a somewhat darker skinned baby? Yeah, don't tell me she wasn't exposed to racism and the baby and all that kind of stuff. They even talked about if the baby would be ginger because there's a 66% chance William carries a gene for red hair. And that Catherine's heritage was less known. Yeah, don't tell me she was never, that she never had that kind of stuff thrown at her, because obviously she did. All right, this next story that came up said that Meghan Markle reveals she was writing a daily journal while working as a royal. Now, you guys know that usually where there's smoke, there's fire. We'd already heard previous that she was caught in Kensington Palace in areas where she was not supposed to be, taking photos of areas where she wasn't supposed to be taking photos, and she was no longer allowed there without an escort. We heard that story repeatedly. If anything, this story simply proves that what we heard was correct. So my follower, Margaret McKenna, wrote that she read that Meghan, quote unquote, found a diary she just happened to write while she was in the royal family, and a book could be in the works. Now, you guys that follow me for a long time know that I did a video on that not that long ago about the fact that she had the diary, she was caught where she wasn't supposed to be, and we knew eventually this material would pop up again. There you are. All right, one more thing I have to bring up. We all remember that Meghan said that there was a member of the cast of The Lion King who was from South Africa, and he pulled her aside and said, we were dancing in the streets just like when Mandela was released from prison after 27 years. We all heard it. She did not misspeak herself like she did about Harry's father, and yet now it's coming out that the only actor who's from South Africa that was in the cast said he never met Meghan. There you go. She's just been called out as a liar again. Now that gentleman is Dr. Canny. He is a veteran of the Royal Shakespearean Company, and he voiced the mandrill shaman Rafiki. He was the only South African in the Disney movie, and he was not at the UK premiere. He said the only other South African involved in that movie was Lebo M, who is a composer who, together with Hans Zimmer, was responsible for the music for the movie, but he was not in the cast. Can you believe it? She lied. And now she's been called out as a liar. So, of course, we all know what's going to happen next. What's going to happen next is they're going to come out and say she misspoke, or no, she meant somebody else. She was under the mistaken impression they were from South Africa. We all know where this is going. I can't. Now, Princess of Random was on Twitter, and you guys know that I already put up a debunking video, but this person also came up with 30 discrepancies in the cut article compared to things that Meghan had said before. You know, the best thing is, people, if you always tell the truth, you don't have to try to keep your lies straight. You know what I'm saying? All right, next up, we know that Meghan used Cut magazine, but why did she use that magazine? Well, here you go. That magazine is well known for writing horrible things about the Cambridge family. You know, I have to say something also that recently came up. Now, remember, Harry complained about having to fix his mansion in the chat. That's about all he was allowed to say, because do you guys remember this from the magazine? I mean, when I told you all that this was the Meghan show and Harry was just a walk-on part, here's a perfect example. The author of the article asked Harry how he felt without family around, and he didn't even get a chance to answer. Meghan answered and said, well, look, we're both building community. I didn't have any friends here either. You know, she doesn't even give the man the chance to answer a question for himself. And, you know, again, that's another lie, because Harry already said that the community had welcomed them with open arms, even though now, of course, we found out that that also is untrue. Now, a couple of other things really quick before we move on to the Spotify thing. Yes, it looks like Meghan Markle copied the West girl. Yes, or Kardashian. Sorry, Kardashian. Yes, she copied her. Can you believe it? I can. All right, now we're going to move on to the podcast. Every time she opens her mouth in one of these podcasts, she says something that has to do with the royal family. Every single time. And we all know that she was only in the royal family for 5 freaking minutes. I'm like, she's been out longer than she was in, but it's the same old crap over and over and over again. It's ridiculous. So she does this podcast and she names it The Duality of Diva, and Mariah Carey's on there. So what's going on now is the royal family is bracing every time she has a podcast, because they know that somehow, in some way, she's going to say something about the royal family. She cannot help herself, okay? So let's look at this podcast. So once again, Spotify is claiming that it's number 1, even though it's listed at number 155. They're altering the numbers again. Misinformation. Now, Meghan, of course, says she only started being treated like a black woman after she dated Prince Harry. She completely ignored the fact that she went to private school and that she had the chance in college to join a black sorority, and instead she chose a white sorority, and she had Caucasian listed on her resume. Yeah. She said, if there's any time in my life where it's been more focused on my race, it's once I started dating my husband, H. Because then I started to understand what it was like to be treated like a black woman. And I agree with Meghan's mole. Same crap, different day. Absolutely. Now, in the middle of all of this, Shouty Shola has stepped up and said that she wants the royal family essentially to step in and help her. What? I don't think so. Now, you should know that Shouty Shola was on Jeremy Vine on 5. And one of the men on there who said, I've been with the press for 40 years, and she's not only upset the UK press, which, by the way, Shola said that the UK press had a agenda, and he said, no, we don't. And when he tried to point out that she had said things that had really hurt the Mandela family, Shola, her way to handle things, I've been noticing, is just to talk over them and not give them a chance to explain, while she herself goes on about a victim mentality. It's a little scary. I'm sorry, I digressed. Going back to the podcast, it was very obvious in certain sections that Megan tried to turn the topic back to her, but Mariah is known for being a very difficult person to interview, and she just wasn't going to let it. So like in this section, Mariah was talking about what she wore last night and the fact that she's still wearing, and Megan was like, see, I'm still in my same mom dress all day, covered in dog hair. I love that you're just like, I woke up in this actually. You see what I'm saying? Now, of course, during this, Megan was accused of being a diva by Mariah Carey. And Megan said, wow, being called a diva really made me sweat. And then she came back later on and tried to explain how it meant to her that she was a diva, that it wasn't really meant as a cut down. It was meant as, I don't know, something else. I mean, let's get real here. She is a diva, but not in the good way. Mariah's a diva in the good way. Megan is a diva in that she wears ridiculously expensive clothes that aren't tailored to her because they're samples sent to her by designers, and she makes sure that she's, covered in whatever amounts of jewelry, and she constantly tells lies. So now all through this entire thing, Mariah is talking and Megan tries to bring it back to her every single time. And then Mariah's just not allowing that. She's not allowing it. And eventually she ends up calling Megan a diva. And Megan goes, what kind of diva moments do I give you? And Mariah's like, don't even act like that. Don't even act like that. It's the visual. It's the look you're giving. Yeah, Mariah wasn't going to put up with that crap. We all knew that. So here's what I think happened. I think Mariah heard the first podcast and she was not going to let Meghan Markle overtalk her like she did to Serena Williams. She just wasn't going to let it happen. Now, people put comments up, and a lot of these were very interesting. The first one was guessed. It says, the world did not focus on your race. You focused on your race. You played the race card because you knew you needed a plausible explanation for not only bailing, but for being so nasty to a family, institution, and country that welcomed you warmly. And then somebody else wrote, somebody named Orange Tree, why does she want to be a voice for Black people if she never even felt that she was treated as Black until a couple of years ago? Now, it's pretty obvious because Mariah Carey is 12 years older than Megan, Megan was kissing up to Mariah throughout almost the entire interview. So I agree with this statement made by Unlikely Bot. It was quite boring. Mariah was not going to let Megan steer into, victim mentality waters, which she attempted to do. And Mariah also wasn't going to let Megan talk over her. She was going to get her, whatever she wanted to say out. And that's what happened. There you go. So now the articles are coming out. How did Megan lose America? Well, that was simple. The constant victim mentality, the constant bashing of the royals, and her constant lying. The media has had enough. All right, the last story I want to talk about here is Kyle Sandilands. He apparently told Meghan Markle he branded her an imbecile in an on-air outburst after she claimed that Britain was continuing to use the N-word. So on the Kyle and Jackie show, they both agreed it was time for her to just move on from her feud already, and how she even could have learned that such slurs were being used in newsrooms, as she did not name names or identify her source. So Mr. Sandiland has little sympathy for her scoffing. She needs to get over it. She's an imbecile. And I have news for you. A lot of people feel that way. If you're joining the royal family and they have these rules in place that they've done for years, you can't just come in and go, I don't agree with your rules, so I'm not going to do it, which is essentially what she did. And they both agreed they're sick of hearing Meghan's woe is me stories about life as a frontline royal. And I got news for you. So was most everybody else. So these two people then went on to defend the royal family. And they even reached out at one point to host Carl Stefanovic about his criticism of Meghan for comparing herself to Nelson Mandela in her interview with the Cut, because he's basically scoffed at it. And what he did, Mr. Stefanovic did, is he doubled down on his comments, and he said there's something wrong with her because playing the victim all the time is starting to wear thin. And he said any kind of sympathy that anyone had for her is basically evaporating, which I agree with that as well. You guys, I think we all know what's really going on here. And this is part of the why they lost the United States. People have their own problems. People are sick of hearing about her woe is me stuff while she's living in that big mansion. It's like enough already. All right, you guys, we have a Finn update. Don't you just love the way he stretches out like this with his back legs like flat out? I took this photo last night. Anyway, I got a little bit of him today. I was trying to pay fetch with him, but he was not cooperating. All right, watch this. What you looking for? Are you going to go to the bathroom? I don't want to get that on camera. Maybe no, I don't. You want the stick? You want the stick? There it goes. Go get it. Now bring it back. Bring it back. Finn, you're supposed to bring it back. Don't run away. Finn, give me the stick. Give me the stick. Give it. Oh, you little stinker. Where's the stick? What do you do with the... Oh. Oh my God, you're so fast. Okay, ready? Not very good at returning it. Here we goes. 1, 2, 3. Now, give me the stick. Give it. Give it. Don't you want me to throw it again? Hey. Give it to me. Give it to me. Okay, I give up. All right, you guys, once again, lots of information. And obviously, as you can see, I am reading your comments, so make them good. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future uploads. If you've already hit that button, please check it again to make sure that you're still subscribed. Don't forget you can follow me on Twitter, Getter, Rumble. You can email me. For those of you who have donated to my coffee fund and through the thanks button, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.